Good day everyone, we are from Group 2. Our poster is titled Hope or Hazard, an ethical dilemma of unapproved drug use, prepared under the supervision of Dr. Fiqri. Here is the group members list.
This case involves a cancer drug researcher considering administering an unapproved cancer drug to his child with leukemia. Although animal studies show positive results, the drug has not been tested in humans and lacks regulatory approval, making its safety and effectiveness uncertain. The situation raises serious ethical and legal concerns as the patient is a minor, therefore vulnerable, and the researcher's dual role as both parent and scientist creates a conflict of interest that threatens the principle of non-maleficence. The central issue is whether the researcher should administer an unapproved experiment drug to his child in an attempt to treat leukemia. This dilemma involves balancing parental hope against ethical, medical, and legal responsibilities. While animal test results may suggest potential benefit, they do not guarantee safety in humans, particularly in children. Administering the drug outside approved clinical trials exposes the children to unknown risks and violates ethical principles such as non-maleficence, informed consent, and professional responsibility.
A similar real-life case is Pfizer 1996 Chovan trial in Nigeria. In this case, children suffering from meningitis were given an unapproved experimental antibiotic without proper informed consent from their parents. At the time, the drug safety and effectiveness in humans were not fully known, and reports later showed that many children die or suffer from serious disability. In both situations, vulnerable children were exposed to untested treatment, and essential ethical safeguards such as informed consent and proper clinical trial procedure were bypassed. Additionally, decision-making was influenced by urgency and authority rather than established ethical standards. These cases highlight a critical ethical dilemma: whether administering an unapproved drug in desperate circumstances can ever be justified, especially when it places children at serious medical risk. Hence, for the preliminary decision is, the researcher should not administer the unapproved experimental drug to the child. First, the risks in humans are unknown, which violate the principle of non-maleficence. Second, beneficence requires us to prioritize treatments that are already proven to be safe and effective. Third, the child's autonomy cannot be fully protected because informed consent cannot be properly obtained. In addition, a parent who is also a researcher faces a serious conflict of interest that may affect objective judgment. Therefore, ethical and clinical standards clearly require that only unapproved therapies should be used until the drug has been truly tested and officially approved.
This slide presents our harm test comparing two options, giving the unapproved drug and not giving the unapproved drug. We evaluate the impacts of three parties, which are the child, the parent, and the professionals. First, from the child's perspective, which is also a patient, safety is the most crucial aspect. By giving the drug to the child, it will have several disadvantages, which is human safety is unknown, risk of severe harm, and also the child may become a test subject without safeguard, since the safeguard is the researcher himself. In contrast, by not giving the unapproved drug to the child, we protect the child from any potential harm, and also the side effect is manageable even though treatments may be less effective in their case. Next, for rights and consent, giving the unapproved drug to the child means that there is no consent since the child is still a minor. This directly violates the child's right. On the other hand, not giving the unapproved drug to the child upholds regular medical ethics and ensure the minor's rights are protected. Looking from the parent's perspective, which is also a researcher, the emotional impact of giving the unapproved drug to the child may make the parent feel more proactive in trying to save the child, although if the drug harms the child, it may result in severe guilt. If the drug is not given, the parent avoids responsibility for any potential harm, although they may feel helpless for never trying to save the child. From a bioethics perspective, giving the unapproved drug to the child will cause major conflict of interest and violates research ethics. In contrast, not giving the unapproved drug to the child will uphold legal standards and maintain objective judgment. In terms of liability, giving the drugs may lead to prosecuted criminal charges and breach of research regulations. Not giving the drug results in no legal violations and follow the research regulations. Lastly, from healthcare professionals in charge of the child, they neglected their main duty, which is to protect the child from any potential harm. By allowing the drug giving process, they will risk losing their medical license and reflects failure to protect the child's well-being. Meanwhile, not giving the drug protects the child's well-being and follows safety guidelines. Under legal aspects, giving the drugs violates drugs regulations and risk of criminal charges. Meanwhile, not giving the drug follows drug regulations and ensures protections under the law. In conclusion, the risk of giving the unapproved drugs to the child outweighs the benefits it may produce. Thus, we agreed to not give the unapproved drug to the child.
Now, let us move to the faith test, which examines how different religious perspectives view this issue. First, in Islam, one important principle is the preservation of life, known as nafs. Islam encourages saving life, but only through the safe and lawful means. At the same time, Islam strongly emphasizes avoiding harm, which is known as la darar wa la dirar. Since the drug is untested and may cause serious harm, Islam does not support giving an unapproved drug to a child. Next, from the Buddhist perspective, intention is very important. The father's desire to save his child can be seen as compassionate or karuna. However, Buddhism also teaches ahimsa, which means non-harming. If an action has a high risk of causing suffering, it should be avoided. Therefore, Buddhism would discourage using an untested drug as it may increase harm rather than reduce it. In Christianity, parents have a moral responsibility to love and protect their children. The Bible teaches care for vulnerable individuals. However, Christianity also warns against acting irresponsibly with human life. Giving an unproven experimental drug may be seen as risking the child's life without proper evidence. As a result, Christianity would advise against using an unsafe experimental treatment. In conclusion, although these religions have different teachings, they all share the same message. Life must be protected and harm must be avoided. Since the drug is unapproved and unsafe, the ethical decision is not give the drug to the child and instead follow proper medical treatment and expert advice.
Next, we have professional tests. According to this test, there are two Malaysian laws that are involved in our case analysis. First law would be Malaysian Act 611, Child Act 2001, Section 31. This act emphasizes that any person who has the care of a child abuses, neglects, abandons, or exposes the child in a manner likely to cause him physical or emotional injury, or permits him to experience such things, commits an offense and shall be liable to punishment. By administering the unapproved experimental cancer drug, the father would be exposing his child to an unknown and potential serious health risk as the drug has not undergone human clinical trial yet. The safety of the drug is not fully established. Therefore, regardless of the father's desperate intention to cure the child, this action constitutes exposure to harm, therefore violates the Child Act 2001. Second act is Malaysian Act 366, Versions Act 1952, Section 12. According to this act, only a registered pharmacist, an authorized hospital personnel, and a registered medical practitioner is legally permitted to dispense or administer potions for medical treatment. An experimental cancer drug falls under the category of a controlled substance, and the father, acting independently as a researcher and parent, does not have the legal authority to dispense or administer such a drug. Doing so would be illegal, and the father violates Act 366. In conclusion, the laws prioritize the protection of vulnerable children and patient safety, overriding personal judgment or emotional desperation, even in life-threatening situations. So, the father should not administer the drug to the child.
Publicizing the decision of deterring the researcher from utilizing unapproved drug to the child is necessary with multiple advantages. The decision made complies with ethical standards while reflecting non-maleficence as the priority of drug development and any experiments involving human participants. No harm is caused by such a decision, and people's trust in scientific research can be potentially raised. First advantage is that such decision promotes transparency by showing that disciplines and standard procedures are strictly followed. Second, it maintains public trust in the drug development process. Third, it might educate the public that utilization of any drug requires strict examination and official approval. It also prevents any speculation from the public. After all, it raises public awareness and induces refinement on the current policy. However, disclosing such decisions may receive negative comments from the public due to their sympathy for the child. They may judge the drug development procedure as inflexible and unprotective. At the same time, there might be potential leakage of personal information of the researcher and the child. Overall, disclosing the decisions and the reasons behind gives the public a positive impression of scientific research. It acts as a great example to illustrate few principles that drug development must adhere to. Publication of such a case may also lead to discussion among publics as well as professionals, and potential ways to refine current regulation may be developed. From the publicity test, the decision of preventing the researcher from utilizing the drug on the child is transparent and justifiable to the public, with its advantages outweighing the potential disadvantages.
In conclusion, strict adherence to ethical and regulatory standards is essential, especially when vulnerable patients are involved. The researcher must not administer the unapproved drug to his child, as doing so would expose the child to unacceptable and untested risks. This decision upholds non-maleficence and is supported by the harm test, publicity test, professional test, and fake test, all of which indicate that bypassing proper clinical protocols is ethically unjustifiable.